watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leading. Episode 113, Learning to Use XPages Mobile Controls. It doesn't matter what you learn, it just matters that you never stop trying. Okay, before we get into the show, just another quick mention about the OpenNTF Appathon contest that has two flavors to it, one for XPages-based content, applications controls, and connections-based content. There's a lot of prize money to be handed out. Now, I do believe there is still no entries in the connections-based contest, so if you do anything, you have a pretty good chance of winning some nice prize money. If you're interested in that, I suggest you talk to Nicholas Heidloff from OpenNTF, and I believe he can set you up with a development environment for connections if you need it or wish. All right, I am beyond excited for today's new contributor. I've been trying to get this person on for quite a while. I've used all my good peer pressure techniques, and it finally did pay off. And I'm talking about none other than Kathy Brown. Kathy Brown, I believe, is one of the original Nerd Girls, and I like to say when geeks get into trouble, they call them the Nerd Girls. She's a great developer. She's a prolific speaker. She was my speaking partner at last IBM Connect, the conference formerly known as Lotusphere. She actually runs more in a week than I drive my car. But she is on Twitter at Running Kathy, and like 14-ish more Twitter accounts that I can't keep up with. One of them that I do try to keep up with is at Notes Dev Tips, which I believe is a co-account with her and someone else, and just development tips. She works at PSC, so she's available to be hired out for her expertise, and they've got a great team there at PSC with Marky and Troy and a bunch of other great guys. She writes for whatever else she writes, and then she'll tell you about all this stuff. But again, she's a great speaker, and I'm glad to finally get her on the show. So now I have to wait probably a month before I can start peer pressuring her again for more shows. But anyway, what she's going to do today is kind of interesting. The last three Notes 9s have been from Peter Presnell about kind of like more of a book overview of the mobile controls, and I try to do it this way. So he didn't really show designer or how to use them. He kind of went through each control as is and went through a lot of the properties and told you what they were and stuff like that. And I thought that was great. So today, Kathy's going to actually go through designer and show you how to use this stuff because that's kind of important too. So she's going to do a demo of kind of like putting together the basic start of XPages mobile control app. And that's the plan. So with that being said, let's go to the demo.
Hi, I'm Kathy Brown, and this is NotesIn9. Today I'm going to show you the extension library mobile controls. First, a little bit about me. I'm Running Kathy on Twitter. I blog at runningnotes.net. I am co-tweeter of the Notes Dev Tips account. I also have about 14 other Twitter accounts. I'm co-author of the Notes Dev Tips articles on Social BizUg. I've spoken at various conferences and authored some articles, and more importantly, I am frequently harassed by David Leedy to record a NotesIn9 episode, so now hopefully after today he'll leave me alone at least for a couple of weeks. I'm also a runner, a geek, a mom, and a loud laugher, and I'll try to keep the loud laughing down to a minimum. So I am going to talk today about the extension library mobile controls, but I wanted to say a quick word about them they're not the only option. There are other options out there, such as Twitter Bootstrap and plenty of other things. So I just want to say that this is not the only answer. This is one answer among many. So let's get started. You can see here our starter application. This is the application that David and I used as the beginning application for our session for Connect, in which we demonstrated how to create an XPages help desk app. So we have here a few forms and a few views. Most importantly, we have our ticket form, which the user would use to input a ticket. And then a couple of views, particularly views by status, in which the user would be able to see the tickets that were open, closed, etc. We can see over here in the Notes client that we've got a few tickets in our application just as an example. You'll also note that this isn't a XPages application yet. We don't have any XPages or any custom controls. So we're going to get started with our mobile application. We'll create a new XPage. We'll call it m_home. Now you can of course call this XPage anything you like. The important piece to remember is this prefix. It could be main_m_, whatever you want it to be. You just have to remember, and it'll become important later on. So let's go ahead and create this page and go over to our controls. And here we have our mobile controls. Now the way the mobile controls work is everything is encapsulated in this single page application. And it's just like it sounds. The single page application means our mobile controls are going to be handled on one XPage. And that is this single page application. This will be the container that holds all of our other pages. And those pages are in air quotes because they're not XPages. They're not separate individual pages. They're just sort of served up that look like separate pages to the user on a mobile device. So again, we have our single page application. We're going to rename it Mobile App. And the selected page name is Mobile Home. No pun intended. What this means is of all the pages that we place inside of our single page application, this will be the one that is the default, the one that's served up first to the user. So we haven't created it yet, but that's where we'll go. It'll go when it opens up for the user. Okay, so now we need to actually create that page, and we're going to drag a mobile page control into our single page application. We're just going to rename this Mobile Home 1. And here's the important part. We're calling it Mobile Home. Again, that was what we referenced on our single page application. And so that's what we're naming this page. Now, because this is our home page, it's not going to change a lot. It's only going to have the one option that we put on it for users to see. Obviously, as you get more advanced, you can put more options on there. But again, they're probably not likely to change a lot. So we can set reset content to false. You can think of that like refreshing the page, right? You don't need to keep resetting what's on your mobile home page because it's not going to change. So there's no reason to go back and forth to the server. So now we've done that, and now we've got our home page. Now we need to have some stuff on it. First thing we're going to add is a heading. So we drop that into our mobile page control. Now we've got our heading. We're going to call this mobile heading. And the label that we want, so this is like a bar across the top, will be home, just so users know where they are and what they're seeing. If we want to take a quick look over at the outline, we can see that we have our single page application, within that the mobile page, and the page heading is within the mobile page. It's good to check the outline over here or the source pane, either way, to make sure that you're not nesting things that shouldn't be nested. At this point, we're looking good. That's exactly as it should be. And so we'll add our next part. The next thing we want to add into our mobile page, again, not into our heading, but onto our mobile page, is what's called a rounded list. Now, I actually find it easier to flip over to the source pane at this point in order to make sure that I add things to the right place. So we have our single page application, the app page inside of that, and the heading inside of that. However, I want the rounded list to go under the heading, but not inside the heading. And that's what I've just done. So I add the rounded list. And the rounded list is really just a container for what's called a static line item. So inside of our rounded list, we're going to add a static line item. Now our static line item is going to be what the user sees and can select to move on to the next piece. So this static line item, we are going to call Open Tickets. So when the user selects that, they'll get taken to a view of all of the open tickets. And how do we know where to go? Well, in this Move To property, we're going to type in View Page. And that's a page we haven't created yet, but that's where we're going. And now we'll create that. So we'll scooch down a little bit in our source. That's the end of that page, but not the end of our application. And we'll drag on another mobile page. So again, just to see, when we look in our outline, we see the page application, our first page, which contains a heading, a rounded list, and inside the rounded list is the static line item. Outside of that, also in our application, is our second page. This page is our view page. So we want to say that here, page name, view page. Again, this matches what we had here on our move to. Now here we want to say reset content true. Because this is a view of open tickets, we do want that to refresh. We want to have the latest list of tickets. We can also say preload. It'll load it in the background when the user first comes on to the home page, and that way when they click through, it'll be ready to go, or at least a little bit faster. Just as we did before on this page, we want to drag in a heading. And there we go, we dragged in our heading. And here on our heading, we have a few things that we want to add. We want to call our back button back. We want to make the label of where we are, saying, well, we're in open tickets. And the move to, we want to be the mobile home for the back button. So again, this is in the heading. When we say move to, it's all for the back button. And we want to go back to the home, which makes sense. That's where we came from. That's how we got here. So now we need to add a view to our page. And that we'll get just from the regular extension library, and we'll drag in a data view. Here we get the normal wizard for the data view. And we're going to select the tickets by status and click OK. So now we have our data view. Now there's a few things we can add here. One of the things that we'd like to add is our key for our view. Right now we said open tickets and we're getting all of the tickets. So on our Domino view, there we've got the name of the view. And we also want to add keys equal open. And this will give us only the open tickets. A couple of other things we want to do here for our data view. Because this is a mobile application, we also want to limit the number of rows. And of course, we could be doing this down here as well in our app and our properties. The last thing we need to do is give it a page name. And this is the page name that'll open when the user taps on or clicks on a document in the view. And that'll open up document page. Again, something we haven't created yet, but it's telling the application where to go. And then one more thing we need to add is our column to display. It's not much of a view if we aren't displaying any columns. So now we add a column, and the name of the column we want to add is description. So now again, we look over here just to see where we are. And you can see we've got our application, we've got our home page, we've got our view page that says open tickets and displays a view. And we're ready to go on to the next bit. So we're going to add another page, just like before, and this will be the page that displays the document itself. So here we're going to go back to our mobile controls, and you'll never guess, we're going to add a mobile page. This page we're going to call, guess what? Document page. Again, this was what we named it up here, document page. We said that's where we're going, so now we have to create that place, and here it is, document page. And we're going to, just as we did before, add a heading. So drag in your heading. We'll open this up a little better so we can see all the properties. We want our back to say back. And where do we want it to go back to? We want our back to go back to the view page. And then we need to add something onto our page for the viewer to see. And again, that's below the heading, not inside the heading. And we're going to add a panel, just a regular old panel, onto the page. We're going to bind that to our ticket document. And that'll just make it a little easier to add all of our fields and everything into the panel. And we're just going to add simple labels and fields. Again, we're not getting too fancy here. We're just showing how this works. We add a label. We add a table, an edit box, excuse me. And we're going to have 4 of those. So we'll just copy and paste that a few times. That should be 4 of them. And we have our ticket key, ticket date, ticket caller, and ticket description. Check that out on our side here. Oh, and I forgot we need some breaks in there. We could, of course, clean this up a little bit, maybe put it in a table and line it up, that type of thing. But for now, this will do for our demonstration purposes. So we want to bind these to our fields. We have the ticket key and the ticket date and the ticket caller and the ticket description. Okay, and that is basically all we need. Again, we've got our whole page application. We've got our home page. The user can click through to a view. Then we've got a view. From there, they'll see a list of documents, and they can tap through and see the actual document itself. And if we followed all of our steps correctly, then the user can also go back each step as they need to and get back to the home page. So we'll save this and refresh it, of course, and build it so we can see it. But one important step is still left. If you remember when I said when we named our page, we needed to remember the prefix. So the next thing we actually need to do is go into Package Explorer. And we need to open up the Web Content folder, the Web INF folder, and open up our XSP properties. Click on the Source tab. You may or may not have all of these items listed, and that's okay. The important one we want is right here, xsp.theme.mobile.page prefix equals, and in our case, m underscore, right? That was what we had here. You want to have that on there. I initially used to think this was just about the theme, and it would help our application look iOS, depending if it was on iOS, or it would look Android if it was on Android. It does more than that. I discovered one day when I didn't have this in here that actually some of my page didn't work. So if the user tapped on a document in the view, it would give an error and it wouldn't open the document. As soon as I put this line into the properties, it worked perfectly. So this line does more than it appears to do. So that's just a little FYI. So we've got that in there, and we save and we close. Now let's view this thing, shall we? We've got our page, and we open it up. Obviously, this is a demonstration, so I'm not going to be able to show you how it looks on an actual device. There are lots of simulators out there. You know, if you're in the Apple Developer Program, you can have an official iPhone simulator. I will warn you that the non-official ones are not all created equal. Some of them seem like they might work fine, but they don't really mimic the iPhone. It's just a small browser. So just keep that in mind. But here we can see we have our home. We have open tickets. We click that. we see a view of our tickets. We can click back and go back to the home page. Again, we go through and we say, okay, I want to see this one. And look, there it is. There's our key, our dates, our caller, our description. We can go back, pick a different one. All of the information is there. Now you say, well, that's all well and good. I'd like to see how it looks, not on Android, but on iPhone. And one thing we can do here is just after your XPage address, $platform equals iPhone. And that'll change it and force it to show us what the iPhone will look like. And all the same stuff. We have our description. We can go back. We can go forward. We can click on it. And we can see the ticket. And there you go. Thanks for watching.
And that's the demo. I thank Kathy for coming on. And again, I won't pick on you for at least a little while, especially since it took me a while to get this show out. And if you have any questions for me, here's my contact information. And I thank you for your time.